Okay, Chaver, let's learn. We're learning the Sefer Pituchei Chotam from Rabi Yakov Chatzira. It's Parshas Emor, and it's Erev Lag BaOmer. Where I am, it's still Erev Lag BaOmer. I figured we'll take one of the more Kabbalistic pieces here. It's all Kabbalah, all remezim in Pituchei Chotam from Rabi Yakov. But I figured, I don't necessarily always dwell on the ones that have to do with the Shemas Hashem. I figured, let's take today. Let's do something a little more involved. Beautiful geshmak remez into the tefillas, into the Kavanos Arizal, into the Hamoadim. Daber b'nei Yisrael v'amarta lehem. So in the middle of Parshas Emor, we go through all the Yom Tovim. And Hashem says, speak to the Bnei Yisrael, v'amarta lehem, you should say to them, Maya de Hashem, these are the holidays, the seasons, the fixed times for Hashem. I should tikru some mikrei kodesh. You shall proclaim them as sacred times. Eilahei Maya de, these are my times. Okay, let's see what Rabi Yakov has to do. So I need to give you a little introduction, two introductions, two akdamas into the shemus of Ekya. That's the shem Aleph, Hey, Yud, Hey, and the shem of Elikim. The shem Ekya, there's in general, all words, which we've discussed before, so there's something called a milui. Milui means what's filled in. So every letter can be spelled out. So the word Aleph, the letter Aleph, is spelled out as a word. Word is called is Aleph, Lamed, and Defei. That's Aleph. Now, most letters are spelled, the same way all the time, but some letters they're the way you spell them will change. So, for instance, the letter Hey has two ways to spell it. I'm sorry, three ways to spell it. You could spell Hey Aleph, Hey, and Hey Yud. When you spell it differently, it has a different meaning. The same is true for the letter Vav, which we discussed when we were learning the Shem Havaya, the Miluye Havaya. There's a Vav, could be spelled Vav Yud Vav, Vav Aleph Vav. So, based on how you're spelling it, you're going to get a different gematria when you're doing the milui. So, in the milui of yudin, when you're using a yud to fill a letter hey, the gematria of the shem Hashem of Ekya, Aleph, Hey, Yud, and Hey equals 161. When you do the milui of Hey, it's 151, and when you do the milui of Aleph, it ends up being 143. Okay, that's the shem. The Gimel Milui of the Shem of Ekya, that altogether equals 455. Okay, the Shem Elikim can also be spelled out in three different ways, and therefore have three different gematrias. Similar, you see it here: Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yud, Mem. The Hey again could be Hey Yud, Hey, or Hey Aleph, and therefore the gematria will either be 291, 295, or 300. Depending on which milui you use. That's the Indian of the milui of the shem. Great. The Arizal writes in Shara Kavanos that when it comes to every bracha and the shemas that you have in those brachas, so you're machavin different things. That's why sometimes, and I remember as a kid, you see people having long Shemona Esrei. And or you see like Rebbes or big tzaddikim have long Shemona Esrei, and some of them you sort of wonder what they're doing. So one of the things that they may be doing is being mechav in the different shemas of Hashem, the different kavanas that are meant to be had when you're davening Shemona Esrei. There's a siddur of the Rashash that spells out different kavanas based on the Arizal. So the Arizal writes that the first four brachas of Yom Tov, Shemona Esrei, the first of the Amidah, a person should have in mind four names of Aleph, Hey, Yud, Hey, of Ekya. Okay? That's two of the shem that equals 161. Twice, two of those shemas are going to be the gematria of 161. Once with the shem with the milui of Aleph, which is 143, and once with the milui of Hey, which is 151. Okay, that's the first 4 brachas. There's 7 brachas in the Yom Tov Shemona Esrei, and the last 3 brachas, not nachos, brachas, a person should have in mind the 3 names of Elikim. Okay, that's what that Arizal writes. Rabbi Yakov is going to show us an amazing remez in the pasuk for these kavanos. Okay, check this out. Again, the first part of the pasuk, you're mechaven 4 of the milui of Ekya. Now, I said before that the milui of Ekya, the milui of the 3 shemas of Ekya. Let me go back to that. Let's see how I do that here. 1 sec. There we go. The milui of the 4 shemas is altogether 455. But the Ari said that you have to have this milui of Yudin twice. So if you'd add 455 to 161, what you'll get is 616. Okay? Now, if you take the Rashi Tevis, the first letter of each word of this pasuk, and I spelled it out for you here. Okay, that's the first letter of this pasuk that we're talking about Yom Tov. You get 616. Okay, so here we have a remez that that you want to be macham the milui of the 4 shemas of Ekya in the first 4 brachas of Shemona Esrei. Now, the last 4 brachas of Shemona Esrei, the last 3 brachas of the Shemona Esrei, we said you're machaven to the milui of Elikim, which is 886. Now, says Rabi Yakov, if you add another 39, because there are 39 letters in those miluyim, altogether you have 39 letters, you get to 925, and that's the seifei tevis of the pasuk. Dabra b'nei Yisrael Mataleim Ma'adei Hashem Asher. The seifei tevis, the end of the last letter of each word, gives you 925. So you see the remez for the kavana of the Arizal and the Yom Tov davening, from the first part of Shemona Esrei to the last part of Shemona Esrei on Yom Tov, is the gematria of the Rashi Tevis and the Seifei Tevis of the shemas that are involved. Whoa. Next, says Rabi Yakov, the word Moyadim, my Moyadim, says Rabi Yakov, there's another remez to these 2 shemas that the Arizal said we should be machaven for on Yom Tov. And that's as follows. Another form of gematria is adding up a letter like this. Everybody, this is famous. Rav Nachman made this famous. Nachman. That way of looking at a word was made famous by Rav Nachman, or whoever does the nanachs. That's actually a form of gematria. So if you take that word Ekya, that Shem Hashem of Ekya, and you added Aleph, Hey, Yud, Hey, you get 44. Okay. The Shem Elikim is 86. You put the 2 together, you have 130. The 2 shemas that Arizal says you're supposed to be mechaven in the Shemona Esrei of Yom Tov, big gematria equals 130, which is the gematria of Mayadai, Mayam Tov. Gewalt. Okay. The word Samael is a Samach Mem, the Sitra Achra, the other side, the Yitzhahara, as we know him as, is the Malach that's in charge of the other side. His gematria is 131. Moyadeh plus the word itself, the kail, equals 131. So if we properly daven Shemona Esrei with the proper kavana, we weaken the forces of the Samach Mem. It gets better. Another thing we want to do on Yom Tov is to learn Torah. Again, 616, which is the 4 miluim, which are machavan of the Shem Avaya, of the Shem Ekya in the first 4 brachos of Shemona Esrei, is 616, and that's the gematria of HaTorah. The word Mikrai Kodesh, what are you supposed to be Kair? What are you supposed to be reading? It's Kodesh, it's Kedusha. You're supposed to be reading Kedusha, you're supposed to be reading the Torah on Yom Tov. Which type of Torah should you be learning? Just regular Gemara? That's great but if you know more, if you know the depths, if you know the Torah's emes, which is how Kabbalah, the Seidus of Torah, which Reb Shimon revealed, is called the Torah's emes. That's special for Yom Tov, if you could be Isaac and Torah's emes. And Tikru Isam Mikrai, which Kriya should I be doing? That's the Kriya, the Rashi Tevis of Tikru, Isam, Mikrai is emes, the Torah of emes, the Torah's emes, which is the Torah that was megal to us by Reb Shimon on Lag BaOmer, is a Torah that we want to spend our time learning on Yom Tov. Amazing, gewaltige remezim that Rabi Yakov shows us, teaches us from the psukim of Yom Tov to the Kavanos Arizal and the Torah we should be learning. We should be zeicha on this gewaltige Yom Tov of Lag BaOmer to daven, to be mishtekik, to want, to have a ratzon, to have a te'ima, a taste of the wonderful Seder Torah, to inspire us, to get us on fire in ruchnius, and to experience a great increase in our gashmius as well. We should be zeicha to experience this Lag BaOmer.